do we hear things differently? Like, do everybody's eardrums take in different frequencies in different ways, and the things that make sound, and like, you know, like,
I mean, for one thing, as we get older, we do hear fewer high frequencies. So
yeah,
there's going to be a difference between me and a 20-year-old's listening. But
yeah. But it's just so funny because like even on like a low scale, there's some albums that I loved when I was younger and I go back and listen to them now and it's like, how did I like this? It just sounds like shit. But I feel like so much of that is chalked up just to me learning more about the process. And now I listen to things differently.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I do too. Especially like records that maybe you used to pan because they weren't as polished. And now I'm just like, oh no, I want to hear humans making this music sometimes. And now I can go back to that record and be like, that sounded human. You know?
Yeah, definitely. I think that
I also do that a lot with video games. Like there's games I played when I was a teenager or in elementary school or middle school or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, this was the greatest game. You know, I spent hours and hours, afternoons, evenings, weekends playing that game. I'll come back to it as an adult. I'm like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen.
Sure.
And I mean, I don't really have the fresh eyes of like a game developer or anything, but you just do have, you know, different experiences, different tastes than you used to.
I remember when I was a kid, the first time I turned on Donkey Kong Country and I saw the Rareware logo come up. I was like, this is the craziest graphics I've ever seen.
I mean, back then that was the cutting edge. Are you kidding? Those pre-rendered backgrounds? Come on.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that game still slaps. Soundtrack, unmatched.
Yeah, unmatched. There are some classic games that, yes, you look at them with the lens of today and you're like, those graphics are terrible. But at the time, they were not. And you really need to give the context of at the time. Like, you can take almost any decade of video games. The 90s are the biggest example of this because at the beginning of the 90s, you have the Super Nintendo. At the end of the 90s, you have the Sony PlayStation and the Dreamcast, each of which is fully capable of making 3D graphics. End of the 2010s, we have photorealism. And like, this is all happening in the span of, 5 or 6 years at a time.
The more realistic video games became, the less interested I was.
I'm kind of in the same boat.
And also like I don't want to say aging myself out of it because I still like all of the other same shit that I did. I think that I just felt like it felt like a chore to play the games. And it didn't really feel like it was as much of an escape as it had been when I was like younger.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement towards, and has been since the beginning, better graphics, make it look more real, make it look everything else. And then, especially in the last 2 or 3 years, game developers are just releasing garbage games that look okay, and not everything's going to look great, especially the bigger budget games.
Yeah, I feel like this has been like, this is an issue across a lot of different platforms where it's like, I don't know if there's as much energy put into like fostering new ideas or trying to generate new intellectual properties. I feel like it's so much
just bombard people with nostalgia.
Let's just make another Star Wars thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Why?
Like, we need more new worlds, and it's always going to be a gamble. The truth is, like, there are like 15 versions of Final Fantasy VII at this point because it keeps making money.
Yeah.
And people keep buying it. Including me.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I'm not also interested in a new IP. And like, every time something brand new, like really fresh and new comes out, everyone's on board. Like, the whole gaming industry, or well, really like the communities inside of it are like, yeah, this is cool now.